Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our customers. My name is Yahya Ilamin. I am a senior customer success engineer in Prisma Access and network security, and I will be your host for today. And what we will be discussing is GlobalProtect best practices. For our agenda for today, we will discuss the prerequisites for mobile users and also mobile user authentication and methods. Also, how we can configure the mobile users. Then we will dive into portal and mobile user security processing nodes and how to configure them. And what will we do if we had an on-premises gateway and how will we enroll it with a Prisma Access. In this section, prerequisites for mobile users, we will be just reviewing the requirements that you need to have to configure mobile users. Before you configure your Prisma Access, you will need the following: Prisma Access license for mobile users, and that you need to verify that it is activated. Also, you need an IP address pool for mobile users that is not overlapping with your own infrastructure IP addresses. You will also need a fully qualified domain name to serve as your portal host name. Furthermore, you need a GlobalProtect agent for mobile users so that the users can connect to your Prisma Access infrastructure. You will need to set up security rules to allow that you will need to allow the user traffic in and out of Prisma Access. And also you will need geographical locations that you will need to select, and we will discuss it further in depth later on. Moreover, you will need also Cortex data lake so that you can store your logs there that in case you needed them for troubleshooting or reviewing. For selecting your GlobalProtect agent, you can go through the panorama, cloud services, and configuration, where you can see that active GlobalProtect version, and then there is a drop-down menu. In this drop-down menu, you can select whatever GlobalProtect version you want to select and you want your users to use. In this situation, if you newly deploy Prisma Access, by default, the latest GlobalProtect version will be activated for every tenant. However, you can always check the drop-down menu and select any features that any version that is available for use at that point of time, or per our Palo Alto Networks recommendation that you can find in our live community. Mobile user authentication. In this section, we will describe how to configure the authentication that you will use for your mobile users. For authentication, before the user connects to Prisma Access, he or she will need to authenticate before he can get he or she can get connection. For authentication, you have a lot of methods that we will describe, some of them. And this method, such as local authentication database, you can use Radius, you can use TechAxe or LDAP servers, or you can also use client certificate authentication, or as an extra factor, you can use multi-factor authentication, Kerberos, or SAML for web authentication. For local user database, this is an initial step. While deploying your Prisma Access configuration, you want to make sure if your configuration is working. However, adding an extra step, like let's say at Radius or LDAP for authentication, that might be add an extra question mark if things didn't work out. So let's say you configured LDAP authentication or SAML and GlobalProtect, but you don't know why it's not working. Is it because of the authentication is not working properly, or because of the GlobalProtect configuration is not configured as expected? To do so, we suggest that while deploying your Prisma Access configuration for the first time, you can use local user database. With this method, you can configure a test user and a test password without any password requirements, and this will be used so you can test that your connection is fine and use it as an authentication method for the initial testings. Afterwards, if everything works fine, we always recommend you that you should switch to a more secure corporate authentication method such as LDAP, Radius, or SAML. And the other factor that also makes local user database not usable, that it is a manual process. Whenever a new user is coming, you will need to enter this user manually and password. So it's not frequently used as an authentication method, but only for testing, it's very effective. Prisma Access for mobile users provides several options of authentication, as we mentioned earlier. Prior to configuring Prisma Access for mobile users, you must determine how users will authenticate and configure the appropriate server profile. You can configure one, or you can configure several server profiles to support the authentication methods that you will use. In the screenshot that you have in front of you, this is an LDAP server profile, and this is specific for LDAP, where you will specify the LDAP server IP addresses and other parameters for LDAP to connect. After you have configured your server profile, you will need to configure at least one authentication profile. You can configure multiple authentication profiles and use an authentication sequence to specify the order of authentication profiles to use. These profiles will be used when you configure your portal and your MUSPNs. You can also add multi-factor authentication as it is supported on top of the authentication profile. In this section, we will describe how you will configure Prisma Access for mobile users. So let's dive right in. The moment you connect to your Prisma Access configuration for the cloud service configuration, you will be prompted with this view. So this is configuration assistance. It's enabled by default to help guide you through the setup for various Prisma Access configuration. Of course, you can disable it or you can re-enable it again. You can just click don't show again and it will never appear again. Or if you want it to come back again to guide you at any point of time, you can click reset configuration assistance link. So to configure mobile users, there is 3 major configuration parts that you need to do at the very beginning. First, you need to configure your templates, which we will explain later on, and also the template stack. The second, you need to also map your zones. And the third thing is that you need to onboard your GlobalProtect portal. Prisma Access automatically creates a mobile _user _template and includes it in the mobile _user _template _stack, which is a template stack. This one template may be sufficient. If it is not, and you want to leverage the template stack functionality, you can use the template section and add other templates and contain additional templates into your stack. You can add more than one existing template to the stack and then order them appropriately using move up and move down buttons. The order is important here because Panorama evaluates the template in the stack from top to bottom. What does this mean? It means that with a setting in a higher template takes priority over the same exact setting specified in a lower template stack. Note that you cannot move the default mobile user template from the top of the stack, so which prevent you from overriding any settings that Prisma Access requires to create the network infrastructure in the cloud. In the device group section, select parent device group that contains the configuration settings that you want to push to Prisma Access for users. You will push all configuration, including the security policy, security profiles, objects, HIP profiles, and so on, and also authentication profiles that Prisma Access will use. The device group hierarchy you specify it allows you to enforce consistent policy for your mobile users. The group mapping settings allow you to do additional configuration in conjunction with the user ID focused directory sync services. And this will be used for group mappings, that you can use in your policies and GlobalProtect configuration later on. The second part is mapping the zones, the untrusted zones. As you can see in Panorama Cloud Service Configuration Mobile Users, zone mapping. To safely enable traffic to pass through Prisma access, you will need to configure security policies rules to allow the traffic or deny it. All security policy rules requires zones, and for that you need to add. You can either use the existing zones that are available in other templates, or you can add new zones, or you can use existing zones and create new ones. Any session that is connected to the public internet should be placed in the untrusted zone. Sessions that will remain internal in your Prisma Access connected network should be placed in trusted zones. So Prisma Access only knows about trust and untrust, nothing more. To map zones, you can just leave any zones that routed to the public internet in the untrusted zone, which is by default, all the zones will be listed under the untrusted zones. And then you can add any internal zone to the trusted zones and click OK. In a greenfield or a new environment that did not already have panorama zones already, a simpler approach that you can just create a new zone, name it trust, and another name it untrust. These zones will still would have to be mapped as it indicated in the slide. So you cannot, even if you created new zones, it will always be listed under untrust until you move one of them to the trusted zone. The third and final part, of course, in the initial configuration, is onboarding mobile users. Mobile users that attempts to connect to Prisma Access must be authenticated prior to granting access. So client authentication is inherited from the portal and mobile user security processing node. So this configuration can be found in mobile user template that comes by default with Prisma Access. However, to configure this client authentication, you will need to navigate to Network, GlobalProtect, Portals, and select Mobile Users Template and configure the GlobalProtect portal authentication settings. By the way, this configuration is only for Panorama Managed Prisma Access. So in addition to the portal authentication, you must also configure gateway authentications to navigate by navigating to GlobalProtect to Network, GlobalProtect, Portals, and then select by Mobile User Template and configure GlobalProtect external gateway authentication settings. There is also a configuration that also I would like to highlight is authentication override certificate. It is used to encrypt cookies for mobile user authentication and to the portal and the MUSPMs. This setting also are inherited from the mobile user template. Before we move forward, I would like to highlight that you can always leverage the feature for Q&A in Zone, and you can always ask us any questions that you have throughout the session, and we will be more than glad to help you. We have also our SMEs here with us on the meeting, so you can ask your questions and it will be answered. Okay. So if you do not require GlobalProtect endpoints to have tunnels, you can enable the internal host detection and configure internal gateway later on. What does internal host detection go? How does it work? It has two sections: IP address and host name. This host name will be sent to the client, and also the IP address as well. They need to be resolved exactly the same way. So you need to make sure that you select an FQDN in the host name that only resolves to the IP address that is specified on the IP address field only when the client is in your internal network. If that happens, let's say fqdn.org, this resolves to 1.1.1 in the internal network. If the client is connecting from home, for example, If he resolves the exact same EFQ, then it will either fail or it will give him some other random IP address from the public internet. If the result came exactly as 1.1.1, which we specify in the IP address field, then the client will know that he is in internal network and he can attempt to connect to the internal gateway with or without a tunnel. Some users use it with a tunnel, some users use it without a tunnel, but this is a different thing. Network redundancy is a new feature used by mobile users, SPNs, to bind two SC cans in different compute locations to provide routing and tunnel redundancy for GlobalProtect mobile users and also for the MU-SPNs as well. That's how they can reach Prisma access. So it's an extra level of redundancy that you can apply only by checking this enable network redundancy. It's recommended that you do enable it. The IP list, as you can see here, the last part of our configuration is a yes or no. If you want to use IP list, it's a new feature as well that requires the administrator to manually validate the IP addresses that can be used for sessions to exit an MUSPN. For example, if you need to allow if you need to allow list some IP addresses with SASE application provider, this feature will require Prisma Access Administrator to manually affirm that new cloud public IP addresses that can be used to egress session to the internet. So it's that manual configuration of validation that Palo Alto Networks ensures that you are aware and ready for that addresses to be used to egress the session. So the administrator must manually specify which IP addresses to be allowed to be used by the mobile users. So if you enable the allow list, it will populate the egress IP allow list in the mobile users tab. You will need to enable the feature, of course, in order to populate the egress IP allow list on mobile users tab. So like here, let's go back. So this person has specified which addresses that will connect from Northwest, US Northwest, Northeast, or US East. Now, so the locations, you can find it in the panorama, cloud services, configuration, mobile users, onboarding locations. The location tab displays a map that shows where locations associated with the 8 compute regions can be provisioned around the world. So this map will allow you to enable locations as close as the mobile users as possible. You can hover the mouse over any compute region, like let's say we have North America, South America, Europe, ANZ, etc. So when you hover your pointer on any of this compute location, it will highlight and show all available locations. So you can select each location by you click the region, and then it will populate which number. Like as you can see here, for example, North America, it has 15 locations, and you can hover on top of it, click on it, and then it will give you a checklist, and you can select which places that you will need to specify which locations. After you finish this, you just click OK, and that's it. If you don't want the map view, you can always switch to the list view, and then you can select the list view depending on how you want it. However, I want to mention that when a mobile user connects to Prisma Access location, so the app will always use the closest location selected. If not, then it will move to the next one, but we will go into that later on. All right. So now we need to configure an IP pools for mobile users. This is a different thing. So this pools IPs will be assigned to the clients. And I want you to know that this IP must not overlap with your existing internal network as well. So you just click on the pool, you click add, you select the region for which you want to select the pool. And so from the region drop-down menu, you can select worldwide or any of the other regions. So you can select a single IP address pool for all GlobalProtect endpoints worldwide, or you can set separate pools for each region where you have mobile users. You also can specify both worldwide or region-specified IP pools. For example, you can add a pool for a specific region and then add a worldwide pool to use for all the other regions. Prisma Access then uses the worldwide IP addresses to scale as you are onboarding additional mobile users for security for the same security processing node. So in other regions, to accommodate more mobile users, you need to add as much as you need. So after you enter the pool, if you deploy locations in a single region, the minimum requirement subnet is /23, which is around, I think, 512 IP addresses per location. So any additional location will also require /23. If you specify a worldwide subnet, the minimum recommendation is /18. So, but you should also provide enough subnet to allocate a number of IP addresses that is equal or greater than the number of licensed mobile users. Okay, to allow all mobile users to log into the same time, you need to calculate it properly. So if you had 1K users, you need to assign 1K or above number of IP addresses. The use of different subnets in different geographic regions will also allow mobile users to geographic region-specific security policies to be made based on the regional IP pools. So, because sometimes customers will need to make security policies based on the region of their clients, different than other clients in a different area. So when a GlobalProtect endpoint with an active tunnel connection, it will generate a virtual adapter. And it will not be using the same Wi-Fi or LAN adapters that is physically in your computer. Therefore, it will require separate network configuration. And that's what we will configure on the Network Services tab. So what you need to do, click on Network Services, and you click Add, and then you can configure the following fields. So as you see, first we have the region. You can use a single network service configuration for all GlobalProtect endpoints worldwide, or you can separate pools for each geographic region where users are located. You also can specify both worldwide and regions pools at the same time. To resolve the name within Prisma Access more quickly, queries for public hosts are directed to the DNS server within each region. Public and internal domains is the second section. You need to specify the DNS settings that your endpoint should use to resolve your internal domain, both for requests that originate internally and requests that originate externally. If you do not have a specific DNS server you want to direct your mobile endpoints to, the endpoints will use the cloud default. There's also a place where you can specify the primary and secondary DNS server and also the DNS proxy on the MUSPNs, where the request originates, send the request to the specified DNS server. The source of each for each DNS request is the first IP address in the IP pool assigned to that MUSPN. So in this case, you must make sure that you allow the traffic from all addresses in your mobile user IP address pools to your DNS servers. Client DNS suffix search list is you can also specify a suffix for that the client should use locally when unqualified hostname is entered, that it cannot be resolved. For example, let's say you have domain.local. You should not enter a wild like that. You can use a suffix to wrap it up. to wrap all the other host names to domain.local. You should not enter a wildcard star character before the domain suffix. But you can add multiple suffix to the on the same configuration. So we also have enhanced IPv6 support in 3.0 and above. So you need to have IPv6. It must be enabled globally in the service setup and can then be enabled on per compute location basis for IPv6 pools and DNS settings as well for mobile users. This feature is exclude video traffic from the tunnel. For some reason, some customers also need to use this feature where if any new Prisma access by default, it has Prisma access by default, it will have the ability to exclude some video traffic like YouTube, Netflix, Dailymotion. It will be excluded from GlobalProtect tunnel where mobile users are initially provisioned. If you don't want this feature and you want to disable it later on, you can always, after provisioning your mobile user nodes, you can always customize it, disable or enable, or specify specific applications. Again, I would like to take the chance and remind you that you can, if you have any questions, please feel free to leverage the features that we have for mobile, for Q&A, and ask us any questions. We are here to assist you and help you out with all means possible. Portal and mobile user security processing nodes, which means MUSPNs. In this section, it will describe how to configure the portals and the MUSPNs. The main three components for GlobalProtect are the portal, the MUSPN, and the GlobalProtect agent. Every mobile user connecting to Prisma Access, it will receive configuration, and this configuration will come from the portal. So that the portal will govern how the GlobalProtect agent will function. The MUSPN, it provides security enforcement for the traffic. So your Prisma Access architecture will determine how many MUSPNs are deployed. You need to make sure that they are sufficient. However, to make it simple, you can treat it as if it's a firewall in the cloud that has only a GlobalProtect gateway. The client, it's a software that your clients will need to install to connect to GlobalProtect. So let's give a global example, like the worldwide deployment you see on the top. For large environments like this one, GlobalProtect can be configured with multiple mobile user security processing nodes. Additional MUSPNs can be used to provide localized configuration to clients. They can also be used to provide redundancy and performance improvement to the end user as well. So for example, as you can see here, the GlobalProtect client first contacts the Prisma Access portal. After the client is authenticated, and authenticated configuration information is sent back to the client that includes a list of available MUSPNs. The client attempts a connection to each of the available MUSPNs as described. So the client then connects to the best MUSPN using a secure VPN connection. After mobile user connects to the Prisma Access portal, the GlobalProtect client application uses the selection process that we will explain here to determine which MUSPN it will connect to. If the mobile user connects in a country that has Prisma Access MUSPNs and the GlobalProtect client will connect to the MUSPN in the same country. If more than one MUSPN is in the same country, the client will connect to the country the MUSPN on the same country that has the lowest latency. Let's say that this SPN with the lowest latency in that country failed and he could not connect to any of them. The client will go to the any one of the regional, the closest one on the regional MUSPNs. If the mobile user connect to the regional MUSPN for any reason, it then bounds to a set of what if it failed to the regional, it will fail to any of the worldwide MUSPNs. So a mobile user can only connect to an MUSPN enabled by the Prisma Access Administrator, regardless of the country or regional or worldwide pooling list. Considering the regional and worldwide pooling list here in your Prisma Access location mobile enablement strategy that you already deployed for your users. No, other way. So remote users will first connect to the Prisma Access portal as we explained. The portal will authenticate the user, and the portal will then provide the GlobalProtect agent with appropriate configuration for that user. The portal also provides the user with a list of available locations, and the GlobalProtect agent will then connect to an MUSPN, and the MUSPN will authenticate the user. And after authentication, the mobile user can begin to pass traffic for Prisma Access. Panorama provides a default portal and MUSPN inside the mobile user template, as shown in the screenshot above. You should configure the portal and MUSPN settings before configuring Prisma Access for mobile users. So in the next few slides, we will explain more about how the MUSPN is configured. Prisma Access uses only logical portal and one logical portal and one logical MUSPN. Although you can configure only one MUSPN based on a location enabled, based on locations enabled and the number of users connected. That configuration will determine the actual number of MUSPNs created around the world, and it's still controlled as one logical MUSPN. So, portal configuration in the template network, GlobalProtect portal, and then you select the template. Portal configuration window will pop up. So it will configure, so the portal configuration window manages the way that the portal itself is configured. So a layer 3 capable interface is needed to host the portal functionality. However, this will be automatically assigned. You can customize the login and help page for GlobalProtect. As you can see in the device, you can use device response pages. In device response pages, you can create the page and then you can use it here. You can customize your login page as the way you want it to be. So here we have other tabs that have similar options, general, authentication, and also satellite options. They are similar between MUSPNs and portals. Agent option, however, are different, and the clientless VPN option are also available only from the portal. The portal agent tab allows you to control aspects of GlobalProtect agents when it's running on the user end device. So, authentication. In authentication, we have four main sections: SSL or TLS service profile. So this setting is configured for Prisma Access during mobile user onboarding process. You cannot make any modification to it. For Strata firewalls, you can, but here for Prisma Access, no. Certificate profile. This is part of the choosing of the name for your Prisma Access based GlobalProtect portal. If you intend to use client certificate authentication on your GlobalProtect, you can build a global certificate profile first and then select it here on the drop-down menu, or you can add it later on after you finish the configuration. Authentication profile. Choose an authentication profile or sequence as we explained earlier and select it here. And also you can generate also authentication message. Is you can customize it as you want, like enter your login credentials or whatever you want. It can be up to 50 characters. So client configuration, which is the main thing in network, GlobalProtect portals agent. This setting you configure here determine which options a user has in the GlobalProtect client when the application connects to Prisma Access. For example, you can prevent the mobile users from disabling the connection to Prisma Access. Or you can specify whether the user will receive a welcome page when they connect or not. You can also specify like one or more MUSPNs that the GlobalProtect client will connect to. You can also add agent configuration to provide different options of various categories of users. For example, show here, for the example is what is shown here, a help desk user configuration has been created that specific to the organization's help desk user. The remaining users will receive the default configuration. As you can see, you can set as many as you want from the agents here. So mobile user security processing node or MUSPN or gateway, as we mentioned. So here in the general, we have general authentication and satellite. They are also similar between all MUSPNs. Agent option, however, are different. The gateway tab provides the configuration options for the connections between the client and the user ID and the MUSPN or GlobalProtect gateway. We have the same SSL or TLS, which is also a part of the onboarding. You cannot modify it, similar as before. Certificate profile, as we mentioned, for client certificate authentication. If you want it, you need to select a certificate profile and create it here. Also an authentication profile that you will use for the gateway. You can use different authentication profile for both gateway and portal. So for example, you can connect to the portal using, remember that there are two connections, portal connection and gateway connection. So you can use, for example, LDAP for portal connection and SAML for gateway connection, or the other way around, or any other authentication method that you would like. Then the tunnel setup. As in the case with the gateway, the setting you configured in the portal, the MUSPN also requires you to configure the various setting for the GlobalProtect agent, for the GlobalProtect gateway agent as well. So as you can see here, we have enabled tunnel mode, which is enable IPsec checkbox, and that's what means that the client will need to set up a VPN connection while using GlobalProtect. If you're configuring an internal gateway, you don't need to check this box. Other configurations that we have are, for example, split tunnel. Yeah, network, GlobalProtect, gateway, agent, client settings, split tunnel. So there are two ways you can configure the GlobalProtect app to send the endpoint traffic to Prisma Access. Either full tunnel, this method is the default and most secure method for forwarding traffic. This method ensures all traffic from the endpoint to be forwarded to Prisma Access. Or you may also consider enabling options like no direct access to local network to mitigate any risk of some infected devices in your LAN being able to access Prisma Access to your mobile users' devices. The second method is split tunnel. So latency sensitive stuff, traffic, for example, or high bandwidth consumption consuming traffic that you don't need it to send, that you trust and you don't need to send it through outside through the VPN tunnel. You can route it through the VPN. You can route it through without some traffic can be routed through Prisma Access and other cannot. So in a full tunnel mode, endpoints still can access their local LAN, but to prevent direct access to the local network, you can enable no direct access to local network in the window Windows or Mac users. With this setting enabled, the app masks local traffic, masks local route, and the app also monitors the routing table for change. So it can dynamically mask routes added outside of the app. The use of GlobalProtect with Prisma Access versus an on-premises firewall drives some different thinking about split tunnel. With an on-premises device, you must think about the burden of your firewall bandwidth, constraints at your home office, and latency of the traffic. So Prisma Access has none of this limitation because it's a firewall in the cloud. The MUSPN has an auto-scaling feature in the cloud, and this feature will expand the MUSPNs depending on your usage. Your mobile users can connect to MUSPNs in the cloud, and you can enable MUSPNs around the world, getting your mobile users to an MUSPN close to them for traffic egressing straight to the internet. Only traffic destined to the corporate network travels to over the Palo Alto network fabric, fiber optic backbone versus the best effort over the internet back to your corporate offices. These advantages, plus the opportunity to have similar security as they are used with the Palo Alto network security devices, allow you for a much smaller use case for split tunneling. Because in this case, you're not concerned about the performance of the firewall like an on-premises firewall. After you configured your GlobalProtect, you need to commit the configuration change and path to Panorama and push the configuration to Prisma Access for mobile users. You just click commit and push, and then you click Prisma Access and then OK. After this commit and push, it takes around 20 to 60 minutes will be until the portals are provisioned. So after you did this commit, you need to track your mobile users. So you can go to Panorama, Cloud Services, Status, Monitor, and mobile user. When you are onboarding mobile users, at least one MUSPN and one portal will be provisioned. Many MUSPN could be provisioned depending on how many locations have been enabled. Regardless of the MUSPN status, the portal must come up fully to be ready to pass configuration information to the users. The formula to track the portal initiation is as follows. So portal DNS name will resolve, but it is not pingable. Then you will have around 20 plus minutes to go for it to be pingable. Portal becomes pingable, and then mobile users can connect to the portal and authenticate, but the portal then displays a generic error. It will take around less than 10 minutes to go. And then after 10 minutes, the portal will be fully functional. So if you see this error, when the onboarding GlobalProtect mobile users, there is a deployment status for the mobile users, for the MUSPNs or gateways, but not for the portal. If you see this, the onboarding of the portal usually takes about 15 minutes, longer than the MUSPNs. So this generic error is displayed by the portal during the final configuration period. So when you see this, that means you're almost there. So verify that your mobile user status and configuration status are both showing OK before continuing, which will not occur for 20 or 60 minutes to 60 minutes after the mobile users are onboarded. Subsequent commits should happen in less than 5 minutes after the compute for the portal and MUSPN have been provisioned. So it's a lengthy thing, but it should be okay, and do not panic if you're deploying it and it took you so much time. Also, although there is currently no active users, you can verify as well as retrieve details about which users are actively connected to Prisma Access. You can click current users hyperlink. You can manually disconnect a user by clicking logout if there is users connected at that time. You can also monitor logs. In monitor log global protect, you can see all kinds of logs like user authenticated, user logged out, and so on. You can also have on the ACC, you can have a global protect activity dashboard for successful connections and successful overall global protect deployment. It's a good way to get visibility on your failures for users or reasons for the failure or public IPs connected and so on. I also would like to highlight that this information, you can also get it from your insights. And if you connect to Prisma Access Palo Alto Networks Hub, and then select Prisma Access, you will also have access to more detailed information. If you have problems, you can collect logs by navigating into your GlobalProtect app. Click on the three bars on the right top corner of the pop-up and select Settings, Troubleshooting, and then you collect logs. Some customers get confused into what do by the logging level. They think that they need to do start before collecting the logs. No, logs are automatically generated. The debugging level will always be doing the same, generating the debugs and logs depending on the level. So changing the level will change the future logs, but not the previous logs. So you can collect logs at any time if you had any issue right away. You don't need to start and wait for something to happen. So the main components of the GlobalProtect is the PAN GPA, PAN GPS. PAN GPA is GlobalProtect agent. This agent refers to the agent UI, user interface. PAN GPS is a service in the backend, in the background that is doing the whole connections and SSL. Each process will generate a log file, PAN GPS, and also a PAN GPA. They are all located automatically in the installation folder, in the place where you have installed the GlobalProtect. There's other list of logs that are relevant. So if you had a problem and you want to open that case, you can always generate a log file and send it to our support team, and they will help you out. Or you can, of course, look into the logs, but sometimes it can be a bit confusing. On the last section, we'll describe how to integrate an existing on-premises gateway. In case where you already had deployed GlobalProtect Gateway, you can leverage this investment by configuring Prisma Access to direct mobile users to your existing external gateway when appropriate. You can set different priority levels for Prisma Access for on-premises gateway and others for the Prisma Access gateways. Priority settings allows you to send more users or fewer users to your on-premises gateway, depending on your requirements. Administrator cannot specify mobile users to connect to a specific gateway, a specific Prisma Access MUSPN. However, you can allow mobile users to manually select specific Prisma Access MUSPNs or gateway using GlobalProtect app. A quick note here, you cannot use your own portal with Prisma Access. You can only use the Prisma Access-based portal that is deployed when your Prisma Access for mobile users is provisioned. But then from that portal, you can redirect users to your gateway. I would like to again remind you that this is two things, and these two connections to the portal and to the gateway are two different entities. So they're not combined together. They work with each other, but that doesn't mean that the portal and the gateway need to be on the same platform. So to add an existing MUSPN to your Prisma Access deployment, or actually, sorry, gateway, you must edit the GlobalProtect portal configuration within mobile user template to add the on-premises gateway to the appropriate region. Select Network, GlobalProtect Portals, select Mobile User Template from the template drop-down menu, select the GlobalProtect portal to edit the one that you have the portal configured, select the agent, and then in the default configuration, agent configuration, you can add a new agent and then select an external gateway and add your on-premises gateway. Just to note here, Prisma Access automatically displays a single cloud services external gateway created as part of the onboarding. This MUSPN appears as a single listing, no matter how many actual MUSPNs are created by the service based on the enabled location or the number of users connected. So it will only display one Prisma Access gateway. So select the agent tab and select the default agent and add the new one. After you added the new one, your gateway will be onboarded. Your gateway will be onboarded with the portal. So how the users will select the MUSPN. So GlobalProtect clients will first prioritize and enable gateway within the same country that the user resides in, regardless of the set priority or latency test, and whether it is an on-premises gateway or a Prisma Access cloud-based MUSPN. If an in-country gateway or an MUSPN in the portal configuration is available, the GlobalProtect client will use it for the tunnel connection. So the logic here is, first, it will look into within the same country as a GlobalProtect client, and then priority as set on the GlobalProtect portal configuration, and then HTTPS latency connection test. So setting a higher priority on the on-premises gateway, if the GlobalProtect client is choosing between gateways and MUSPNs, like an on-premises and a Prisma Access, and there are more than one available within the same country as a same country as a GlobalProtect client. The next criteria in the selection logic is the priority as set in the GlobalProtect portal configuration. So the logic will be within the same country as a GlobalProtect client, priority as set on the GlobalProtect portal, and last but not least, HTTPS latency connection test. You can set equal priorities on the on-premises GlobalProtect gateway and Prisma Access MUSPNs. The GlobalProtect app uses gateway priority in a multiple gateway configuration to determine the preferred MUSPN or gateway. You can use this configuration if your mobile users are most often closer to an on-premises gateway. When users change location, for example, the GlobalProtect app chooses another MUSPN, either on-premise or Prisma Access MUSPN, based on the priority and the lowest response time. So in this example, user 1, GlobalProtect app determines that the Prisma Access MUSPN has lower response time than the on-premises gateway. And user 2, GlobalProtect app determines that the on-premises gateway has a lower response time because all MUSPNs and gateways have the same priority. User 1 connects to the MUSPN on Prisma Access, and user 2 will connect to the on-premises gateway based on lower response time. So the selection logic here, within the same country as a GlobalProtect client, priority as set in the GlobalProtect configuration, and then HTTPS latency. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. We are always happy to protecting your digital way of life. Now we will get to the Q&A. And please, if you do have questions, again, please feel free to share them with us on the Q&A section. Thank you for your time.